They're going to be discussing Cambio, our exhibition that's opening today. It's the third major design exhibition that the Serpentine Galleries have included in their programme. And for us, we hope it's the first of many more conversations, researches and presentations of design in the future. So we're really delighted to have everyone here and for this conversation to begin. I will leave you to it.
Thank you very much, Rebecca.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming. It's a little bit cozy in here, but we're also live streaming it on Dezine's Facebook and on Dezine as well to hopefully millions of people around the world. Simona and Andrea, this is a design exhibition, but it's also a research exhibition. I wanted to start off with if you could just explain to everybody the kind of concept behind the exhibition, why you're doing it and how.
You know, I think that we must start from how the conversation went with Anne-Sophie Covers at the beginning and with Rebecca. You know, this is, as you said, it's the third design exhibition that Serpentine is doing. And when we started the conversation with Anne-Sophie, he said since the beginning that he was interested in approaching design within the gallery, but not from a product perspective, but showing more how design can operate at different scales and to show more the process, in a way the way of thinking of designers more than the products. And so we departed from there, and we thought that it would have been interesting to do a curated show where, of course, it is about showing our own way of working, but it is about featuring the works of others. The idea of starting with working on the idea of the timber industry came about because we wanted to start from a material, which is something that we often do, that can be entering the life of people in multiple ways, so that people can relate to. But also, I think when we talk about the use of timber, we're also talking about the relationship with the forest and how we extract timber from the forest. And trees are, first of all, living species, and so it raises also ethical questions in what it means to produce when you interact with another species with whom we cohabit on the planet. So of course the ecological concerns are centered in the exhibition.
Yeah, and we started doing the exhibition more or less 1.5 years ago. We did it with several, as Simona said, collaborators. And first of all, with the Tunen Institute, with the Kew Garden, the ANA, some people that work with the legislation in the Anthropocene, based in Amsterdam. So we wanted, in a way, try to connect as much as possible the discipline of design with the outer world.
And your previous kind of big research project prior to this one was looking at kind of technology called ore streams. Why the focus on woods and the timber industry for this project?
Well, a bit because of what I said before, that this allowed us to take a material which is very approachable. It has a huge impact in design and architecture and in the life of people in general. And because trees are living species. I also have to say that the ambition of an exhibition like this is not to be the end. This is also something that we discussed with Anne-Sophie, but also with Rebecca. We always wanted the exhibition to be the beginning of something of a longer process. And we hope in a way that this is an exhibition that has a meaning in this context, so more in museum context. But we hope that maybe other industries or other even more traditional fabricators will contact us to engage in some of the conversation that the exhibition is raising, so to continue further with that. And I respond to your question because with ore streams, we were hoping to move from an independent project, a research project, to something applied, for instance, within electronic producers company. But we found a lot of difficulties in making that bridge. We think that starting from a material which is more traditionally associated, for instance, with furniture making, which is how we developed our early career, it might help us to do not only a project in this context, but also bridge out in the reality of the world.
And you mentioned that your kind of idea was not to present your own work here, but kind of bring other people's together. I think the only kind of design objects that you guys have actually made is the kind of the furniture, the kind of exhibition design. How then, as designers, are you approaching this project? What makes this exhibition a design exhibition and not just a kind of a piece of research?
First of all, like everything that we are showing here, they relate in a way or the other on the design discipline. Even as you said, the choice of material that we chose, all the material, all the furniture that we built within the exhibition comes from a specific place in Italy that is the Val di Fiemme. The last year was hit by a huge storm. More than 30 million trees has been practically fell down because of like this storm. And there is like a huge problem because if they don't remove it very quickly, this can have like a huge phytosanitary problem in all the area, and of course also a huge releasing of CO2. It shows that material, of course, deliberately, and in a way it's also a kind of like it's a design choice. You could choose like a very fancy material, while instead we choose the most humble pine wood that you can find, and we also chose it because of the reason of the storm. So in a way, already like the materiality, this materiality that you can find within the exhibition speaks about choices that you can make when you design.
Also, I think the more we work, the more we realize that we can, as designers, act on a product level, but the context that design operated with is much bigger, it's much more holistic. And in a way, with an exhibition like this one, we can engage with the complex system upon which design perform. What I mean to say is we all the time use materials around us, but it is equally important to question how we source them, where they come from, the legality of it, how the governance of this industry is structured. Once you have this holistic perspective, then you can start to zoom in more specific case studies. But we believe that this exhibition is a design exhibition because as designers, that we like it or not, we find in any moment of our practice making choices that either support one kind of industry or another. And it is important to start looking at design from this perspective.
Like one of the first part of the exhibition are a series of forensic investigation into objects that enter in the European Union. It's quite interesting that 30% of objects that comes from abroad, they are illegally sourced. They come from illegally logged forests. It means that in any case, we as designers, we should be probably more active also in understanding, for instance, where we choose a material, to understand where it comes from. So to be much more transparent in all the chain of custody.
And what you're talking about is kind of like going beyond design as an object and looking at the kind of political, economic kind of impact of that. Do you think when you're looking at that, does the fact that your background is in design make a difference? I'm thinking it's quite, the idea of like design thinking is kind of, it's almost a cliche. You guys talked about kind of looking at economics, politics through the lens of design. What does that actually mean? What do designers bring to the table that the economists, that the politicians, that the policymakers can't do?
It's very clear. Actually, we learned this while working on this project. There's different ways we can answer to this. What we realize is that often, because of a sort of a cliche idea of efficiency, we all work in a very compartmentalized way, divided in sectors, and there is a lack of knowledge sharing. And I think this is creating a lot of troubles. And when we see that whenever we do this kind of research, what is lacking is a link between all these different parts. And as designers, we can do that because no matter what, the design discipline is linked to all these different facets.
Also sits in between extraction and end of the use of an object. So we have also a really privileged position in this chain.
There is also something else to say. For instance, a lot of the conversation we had for the exhibition, scientists or people involved also with philosophy or in other cases with legislation, what we realize is often this practice, they are, of course, victim of the cliché of their own disciplines. So, for instance, scientists, they can publish scientific papers, which obviously are tremendously important, but they lack the platform where they can make association or question the role of their own discipline, for instance. So when we engage in a conversation with a scientist, for instance, he takes freedoms that usually he wouldn't have, because, of course, of the scientific method. In this way, we can, because of our position, interact freely with different knowledges and possibly create these links we talked about before. Of course, the role of this exhibition is also systematizing these informations and communicating it to a larger public. So, there are different ways that design can act. It is about information design. It is about doing research, but also digesting that research, making it available for others. And these are all ways that design can, help the process of developing more logical thinking.
Something that I think is important also to point out that we tried in all the steps in the exhibition to give to the people that will come and to see the exhibition knowledge, or to kind of be able to deepen much more the knowledge. For instance, in these two rooms we have two videos. One video is much more historical, it goes through the history of timber, while in this room, actually on the back, we have a video that speaks about the industry of timber nowadays. And on the back we have some small cubicle where people can access to a website that we create, where we have all the interviews that we conducted in this year of investigation with different people, and then you can really go through all the book that we have been reading. So let's say that it's quite important for us, this idea of sharing knowledge, and it's something we want to promote and foster as much as possible.
And when you're doing a research project like this one, or like the Ore Streams project, which is, I suppose all of your work is kind of critiquing design as well as being design. How do you kind of square that with your work as designers? You also produce kind of more traditional design, lighting, furniture, that kind of thing. I was reading your in the catalogue which you've produced, which has got a lot of the kind of interviews you were talking about in it, and you talked about the origins of design from the Industrial Revolution, and a bit stood out to me, which was you talked about design as premised on accelerating and the infinite extraction of resources, conversion into financial wealth, externalization of wealth and environmental damage from the richest nations to the poorest. That's a pretty damning statement about what design is, or what design has contributed to. So
but that's reality. So that's a fact, I would say. I think that's a fact.
And we are part of this.
And then we are part of this reality. Actually, our daily life, it is part of that description. Whatever, there is a section of the exhibition, for instance, that touches upon the relationship that there is between how the contemporary industry of timber is shaped upon colonial past of a lot of countries in Europe. That's just a reality, and we have to deal with it. Nevertheless, it is indeed a complex question to, when you are, as us, in any case, a commercial design studio. So it's not that we're working as in a university. We in any case, we need to run a business, and we need to find a balance between our critical and research-based projects, our more commercial projects, and in an ideal scenario, these two entities should converge. To make them converge is very difficult, and in fact, it is a constant struggle. It's not easy, and it also raises ethical questions. Should if we do something like this, should we do certain other projects, and so on. On the other side, I think the complexity of the world we live in forces us in, at least this is the way we handle it, to continue with these two different entities, hoping that at one point they will merge. In a way, an exhibition like this one is an attempt to put forward our interest in working in a certain way. And I would wish, for instance, to have producers or companies saying, why don't you do, with a similar approach, a more internal research in our own production process?
Or we are starting to this kind of request, and I think that's quite interesting, because it means that sooner or later we will probably find the right company to work in the way we think is correct, at least for us. So it takes time, probably.
Do projects like this one, do they lead to companies approaching you, asking you to help them with their, not just design a product for them, but
at the moment it did.
Yeah, but we are doing much more on a consultancy level for small parts of production.